it gives us a perspective of really the foundation that was laid the months, the years and months and days before the Quran and Allah, the creator of the universe, started to talk to Prophet Muhammad, who would eventually become really the last prophet for humanity, right? So Prophet Muhammad is the last human. It's the last time that the creator, at least as Muslims, this is what we believe, is that the creator would discuss or talk or connect to the universe through a human being. It's the last time. So the way that Allah Azza wa Jal prepared or started to the pre-game, the preparation for Prophet Muhammad getting revelation, we talked about a lot of them. So when he was young, he was very involved in the community. He had a certain amount of character. Particularly, he was very honest and trustworthy. We talked about his upbringing, his lineage. We talked about his leadership, his role. We talked about all of these things. All of these things are really important. They're extremely important, as we mentioned, I think a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned that the soil was extremely enriched for Islam to grow out of, faith to grow out of. Right? The last message of God to grow out of. Like everything had to be perfect. The variables had to be perfect. God could have chosen any time, any place on earth, any human being, any year, but he decided to choose Muhammad in the middle of Arabia 1437 years ago. And there's a reason why. And we discussed a lot of the pre-game. The days and months and weeks before, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, of course, he was at the time married. At the time, he had children. Particularly, he had different estimations, but he had at least 3 of his daughters were alive. None of his sons lived, as we mentioned last time, more than several months. But all of his daughters were alive. 3 or 4 of his daughters were alive at the time. So he's a father. Remember, he is running, or he's the CEO of the most profitable company in Mecca. And at the time, again, he doesn't need to be running it day to day anymore, right? It's a business, it's managing itself. Like Tony Robbins says, you don't work in the business, you work on the business. And there's a big difference between being a business owner and a person in a business. And when you become a business owner, you shouldn't be in the business, right? Eventually it should operate without you. Again, some nuance that we learned from Prophet Muhammad and Khadija. Actually, Khadija is the chairman, right? It's actually her company. He's just a hired employee, and of course they got married, and the whole love story that we talked about our last session. So Prophet Muhammad at the time is a father. He's busy. There's a lot going on in his life. He's around the age of 40, right? So he's roughly really the peak of life is 40. It's the average age. Even back then, people would live 60, 70. So 40 is really that midlife, we always study in human development midlife crisis. It really is real. When you get to the age of 40 or 50, family members start to die around you. You start to get older, you start to wonder, where am I going? My kids, do I have a relationship with them or not? So many variables start to happen. So thinking about the larger sense of who I am and who I'm going to be becomes a very, very important part of that period of your life. Let's get to the story, and then inshallah ta'ala we'll get into our discussion on our main topic. Revelation begins when the Prophet ﷺ, for months and weeks at a time, began traveling 2 miles outside of Mecca and going up a mountain. The mountain eventually would become called Jabal al-Nur, or the mountain of light. And he would start to seclude himself in a small cave by himself. And you would think, I want us to think about this a little bit at a deeper level. I've heard a lot of people discuss this at different times, but the Prophet ﷺ is a father, many kids, again, owns a business, really an integral part of the community, as we mentioned. And all of a sudden, حُبِّبَ إِلَيْهِ الْخَلْوَةِ. He started to love to be alone and isolated and secluded by himself. And it's interesting, again, that this began by him doing this for a day, then 2, then a week. Then even narrations mention that he would take his food and stay there for literally days and weeks on end. So he would go up, stay there for several days, come down, grab some food, go back up and stay there for several days, come back down and check on his family, take care of some affairs, then go back up. It's like any opportunity that he could, he would take that 2-mile walk outside of Mecca, go up the mountain, and the mountain is facing directly Mecca and the Kaaba. Now, let's analyze a little bit at a deeper level. So I want us to understand this, because again, I'm sure you guys all heard the story. I'm not interested in telling you the story, right? We're interested in diving deeper into the things that we can get out of this for ourselves. What do you think? So a 40-year-old, you're a 40-year-old in your life. You are very, very busy. You have a lot of chores, a lot of responsibilities. There's so much going on in your life day to day. And you decide for one day to leave everything that's going on in your life. You step outside of the matrix and you go up a mountain and you sit by yourself looking down at this cosmopolitan, like the entire city. What are you thinking about? I'm asking you, what would you be thinking about? Anybody? Okay, so good. So I'm trying to figure out, the heck am I going in my life? What am I doing? Who am I? If I die tomorrow, what does that mean? Where am I going? What is it? What purpose of my life? What impact have I left? Right. So definitely you start to reflect on like your life, your achievements. You know, who am I as a father? Who am I as a mother? Okay, good. So definitely some perspective on life. What else? What else do you think about? If there's a mountain outside of Dallas, and you can go up that mountain every day and just look down at the entire city of Dallas. And you can leave your mom, your friends, your school, your job, everything. You don't have to think about anything. You take everything you do every day in your life, you put it on one side, and you went on a mountain and you just started to look at it in a live stream or something. I don't know. Right? And you're just watching life. What are you thinking about? Yes?
God and the universe.
Okay, so you're thinking about, so you would think about, this is your answer, right? So you would say, I would think about like the universe, the stars. I would look up at the sky. I would look up at the, Texas has no mountains, but you know, I'd look at the dead flat land of nothingness and people and lights and stuff. Okay, good. You would think about the universe, creation, maybe. Okay, interesting. What else? What would you think about? Yes, go ahead, Adam.
What's out there? What's in my future?
Okay, good. What is going to come? Like, where am I going to be am I going to be dead in 10 years? What do I want to do in 10 years? What are my accomplishments? If I die, am I ready for death? Is my family taken care of? Do I have any responsibilities to people that I feel obliged to or I feel like are holding me back? Is there anything in my life I wish I could do more? Like, can I go to bigger, grander places? Am I not traveling enough? Am I not, right? Good, excellent. What else? What else would you think of?
Relationships, maybe?
Relationships, good, excellent. I mean, everything you guys mentioned are wonderful points. Actually, we don't really know what the Prophet used to think about. Scholars mention some things. They mention he's thinking about his Lord, he's thinking about creation. And I think these are our personal reflections. We never were directly told by the Prophet what he was doing. But if you were to ask me what the Prophet was doing, I would say the number one thing, all the things you mentioned, I'm sure, because you're not thinking about one thing when you're up there, right? It's not like I'm just fixated about one thing. But if you ask me, I think one of the things the Prophet used to think about was what kind of research science tells us today in psychology about the importance of seclusion. Seclusion gives you one very, very important, breaking away gives you one very, very important aspect that really you don't find in other places, which is your ability to reflect and think creatively about the world and what you can do for it. Just like the shower, somebody mentioned, or the bathroom, or an airplane, or a car ride. You know, the mind is a very typical saying, but average minds think about people. Greater minds think about events. But the greatest minds, they think about ideas, concepts, strategies, the world, how they shape it, how they're a part of it. These greater concepts. If you guys have ever heard that saying before. So one of the things that we learn is that the Prophet ﷺ, as he was up there for days and weeks and months, is that Allah Azza wa Jalla really laid down the important elements of having this new software for humanity to come into this first person. The software would eventually be known as Quran, right? It's the software that goes into the hardware, that really reshapes and transforms the individual. But that software, this message, the ayat, the miracle, can't enter the psyche of a human, the heart, the mind, the soul, until that human has removed certain things from their life. The Prophet ﷺ removed everything in his life that was a distraction. Let me give you guys an example. We walk into life and there are a whole bunch of rules and systems and networks that we have to adopt. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose what are the most popular food brands. We don't choose what are the most popular clothing lines that everybody wears. We don't choose what everybody wears. We don't choose the colors that people wear. We don't choose the styles. We don't choose the language that we talk. We don't choose. There's 1,000 things that we just as humans, what do? We completely inherit. And most people, 99% of people, never ever question anything about everything that they inherit. They just inherit it and they just accept it. It doesn't matter, my parents did this, so I do this. Everybody does this, so I do this, right? So you inherit everything. But really accepting the message of God, the last message of God for humanity, there has to be an absolute detachment from everything that's in the world, so that it can purely come in fresh and clean and kind of, in a way like you empty out the entire computer and then you insert the new software. If that makes sense. Really, really difficult for us as individuals. We all live our day-to-day life, right? This is not grind. But the Prophet ﷺ taught us that really stepping out of the matrix. I know I say that word, I hope you guys have watched The Matrix before, but when you step out of the matrix, what everybody does, how everybody does it, how everybody talks, how everybody acts, how everybody eats, how everybody sleeps, how everybody does everything every day, even in your life, we realize that sometimes we don't even have control of our life. Like we live life, and it's like I have no control over it anyway. Right? I have to go to school, I have to get my degree, I have to drive my sibling. I got all these things that I have to do. And you know what? What if you didn't have to do any of them for one day? What would you do? The Prophet ﷺ trained himself that, hey, I'm going to step away from everything and I'm going to analyze the entire world and what my role is in it. The Prophet ﷺ at the same time is looking from that mountain. He's looking down at the world and he's asking, why is there oppression in this city? Why are people worshiping what they worship? Why are the people that are rich and why are the people that are poor? Why are there people in power? Why are the people that are oppressed? Why are those systems there? Why do people that have a monopoly over the money, or a monopoly over the clothing, or a monopoly over the food, why do they have that monopoly? Where did the control of this world, where did it come from? And I think it's an important part for us. Like if I told you guys, it sounds really weird, but if I told you all our food is the biggest science experiment in human history, it's all chemicals. If I told you all your clothing comes at the back of slave labor, when a mother leaves her children for 18 hours a day just so she can knit and bleed to, her fingers she can come home without her fingers, just so you can go to Old Navy or H&M and wear a sweater. What if I told you that the entire system of everything you walk into, from school to work to how parents talk to their kids and how siblings and adults interact what if I told you all of it is just a mindless game of zombies walking around, not knowing why they do whatever they do, but they just do it every day. And then you step outside of it for a minute and say, hey, why? Why is it like that? Why do people get oppressed? Why does that have to happen? It's a completely different perspective on life, right? None of you ever think of buying something that's not in a television commercial. But what if I told you I don't buy anything that's commercialized on television? What if I told you that I don't have a television or have a phone? What if I told you that I don't use electricity? What if I told you that I don't use any gadgets or gizmos? What if I told you that I only eat from a farm? What if I told you I don't use any plumbing or any? What if I told you like everything that you understood your whole life? Like I don't do anything. I ride a horse, not a car. I ride a bike, not a truck. What if I did everything opposite of what every human being does? How would you look at me? No, I'm saying as an example. I know, I understand. But what do we call people like that? We call them freaks, right? I was thinking more extreme. Weirdos, conspiracy theorists, people that, wackos sometimes even, right? Creative. Thoughtful, mindful, controlling of their life. Not stuck in the matrix. They drank the red pill, not the... Wait, it's the red pill, right? You guys don't know the matrix? Oh, that's bad. You guys need to all go binge on the Matrix series this weekend, okay? Be mindless and zombies and... Is it the red pill or the blue pill?
Be careful about referencing red pill. That's an alt-right subreddit.
Oh, sure, no problem. I apologize. I know everything is very nuanced and has a lot of meaning. But what if I didn't watch movies or listen to music? What if I didn't go and shop at the places that everybody buys from or eat? What if I didn't do any of those things? What if you, for one day, completely stepped outside of the box and decided to do everything differently? I'm just asking you, what if? How would the world look? I believe that the Prophet ﷺ did that for months before he eventually got revelation. He eventually challenged every thought, belief, idea that he ever inherited, and he asked, why is it this way? And who said that it should be this way? And you know what? I believe that revelation started, and it inserted that first sequence of programming that really shaped and reshaped all of life for every Muslim till the end of time, at least if they understood revelation properly. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, after months and months of that, months and months of that seclusion, Allah Azza wa Jal one day sent that angel. At the time, sunset. It was definitely Ramadan. It was definitely Laylatul Qadr. What day, we don't know. What year, we're not really sure. But estimations are that for sure it was at sunset, Laylatul Qadr in Ramadan. And the Prophet ﷺ is sitting as he's about to, the sun is going down and the horizon looks beautiful and the sky is pink. All of a sudden he sees a humongous figure behind him in a cave that he knows no one can be in. He didn't see anybody coming up for miles. Could have seen them from far away. So all of a sudden he sees a huge figure, a dark figure behind him. So he turns around and he says, ﷺ, that he was shaky, like it was an extremely scary moment. And so he turns around and this figure automatically tells him, like right away, tells him, Iqra, read. You guys know the story, of course. Read, Iqra. And the Prophet ﷺ, I don't think you guys have never walked down a dark alley at night before. So if you're from like places that I'm from, and you're walking home at like 1 o'clock at night, and it's really like sometimes you do it. You're walking home from the train late at night, from school or from work, and the street is really dark and it's empty, and you hear only your footsteps, and it's really freaky when you hear anything around you, right? And you just start jumping, or like I don't think you guys are used to even walking at all. But if you were from where I'm from, you would understand that experience. It's very traumatic when something like somebody were to jump out at you, right? Like in the middle of the night, you're sleeping in your room, if you sleep all night and you just wake up and there's somebody right there. And this somebody or this something, it's telling you like something, whatever it's telling you. It's commanding you something. And the first thing I would do, again, where I'm from, first we start swinging. Like, you don't really wait. Like, you don't really think about it, right? It's like a punch. You guys have ever seen, I know it's Halloween past, we don't do Halloween thing, whatever. But you guys know like the really funny YouTube Halloween videos? I'm sure you guys scroll through them for hours. A guy jumps up at it with a mask, right? He's a pumpkin and kids come up and, jump up. You guys have ever seen the ones where the dude, he jumps up and he gets a punch in the face? If you can imagine that, like I would think that would be my first reaction. If I'm alone in a place by myself and somebody pops out. Like I would just be like, oh, right? I would react pretty violently. I'm not sure how you would react. You guys all look like scaredy cats. The Prophet ﷺ was told, look, I just want you to understand his psyche. He was told at that moment, Iqra. Like the first thing this thing said was like, read. And it's amazing that he is so honest. Like his first instinct, being such an honest person, was to say, I don't know how to read. It's actually, you guys laugh. I think it's so funny. Like, that's how honest he was. Like, he didn't even think about himself or his life. He's like, bro, I don't know how to read. I don't know how to read. That's how honest he was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's just, like, honesty was spewing out of him all the time. He's a very, very honest person. As-Sadiq al-Amin, of course. So the Prophet ﷺ, the first thing he says was, like, who are you? What the heck do you want? What's going on? Oh, I'm something, scaredy emoji. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ma ana biqari. I don't know how to read. And so Jibreel, of course this is Jibreel, this figure, he says, this figure squeezed him. Yusuf, come up quickly. Quickly. I don't think, so you have to have the visual representation, right? So he faces the figure. He doesn't see what the figure is. It's just like this statuing figure. You're kind of big, actually. I need somebody short and small. But if I were to, no, that's okay. I can break Yusuf. If I were to grab Yusuf and squeeze. Okay, thank you, very good. You all right? All right. If I were to squeeze him so much like I'm breaking his back and the air is completely out of his lungs, right? The Prophet said, I thought I got to the point where I was going to die, and he let go. Like that kind of bear hug. If you have a big uncle or a big brother or somebody and they ever give you a crazy bear hug, like where you want to die. That's the feeling. Like I could barely breathe. The Prophet said he came to like where I couldn't breathe anymore and he let go. And what did he do? He said the same thing. He said, Iqra, read. Now I would be super freaked out right now too, right? Like this is now it's like really, like I'm pulling out a gun or so. You guys are like, you would do so, like you would run, or like what would you do if you, it would be a freaky situation. Of course it shows the Prophet's courage, like he did it and he's just like, no sir, I don't know how to read. Right? Ma ana biqari. I don't know how to read. And then the Prophet ﷺ, what does he do? Jibreel does the same thing over a second time, squeezes and lets him go. Iqra. He says, Ma ana biqari. A third time, squeezes and lets him go, and then Ma ana biqari. Then Jibreel recites really the verses and revelation that really, me and you are not here without this moment, right? Like we're not sitting here the way we are, with our names, with our identity. We are not us if these verses didn't come down. It's the verses that would eventually reshape, human history. Allah Azza wa Jal, and we're going to dive into them a little bit. Allah Azza wa Jal begins with Iqra, of course, Surah Al-Alaq. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaq al-insana min. Can you guys say it with me? Alaq. Iqra wa rabbuka. Guys, can we say it together? الذي علم الإنسان. Very, very good. 5 verses. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. 5 verses. And these 5 verses were the piercing, is the piercing infusion of the words of God into the psyche, into the mind and heart and soul of Prophet Muhammad, and eventually into billions and billions and billions of believers until the end of time. These are the first 5 verses. It's amazing that these 5 verses have everything to do with the reset that I was talking about. The reset of seclusion, the reset of mind. It's the wiping out the computer and the first thing you enter back in. The best analogy that I could think of. Allah Azza wa Jal begins by saying, Iqra, read or proclaim. At that time, by the way, I mentioned this before, people didn't read. Read, the first thing, when me and you see read, we think about reading words. To them, read was really Iqra, to recite. Because what did I say about the society at the time? Who remembers? They were unlettered. Nobody cared about reading and writing back in the desert, guys. Alhamdulillah, there's no school, right? Good. Right? It's like, yo man, I like that society. There's no such thing as school. There's no libraries. There's no schools. There's no books. People didn't need to know how to read. It was irrelevant to life. Okay? Other parts of the world they did, and it was definitely, reading has been a privilege. I told you guys, reading and writing is a privilege of humanity for the past couple 100 years. It was a privilege. Just with really the past 100 years has it become a mass level of reading and writing. But before that, reading and writing was a privilege, and it's a luxury. It's like eating sushi and caviar. All right? Not everybody does it. If you think, I'm just trying to think about it, or flying in private jets. Like, we don't think about that. But for some people, that's just like, I go to my private jet. Instagram it, right? That's just how it is. So understanding that reality. Good. So Iqra was read, like recite. Iqra bismi. So what is the first thing Allah tells them to recite? He says recite in the name, like in the name means in the declaration of, right? So your company letter, nowadays kings don't do this anymore, but presidents do, in the name of the President of the United States, or in the name of, the letterhead is like Hewlett Packard or Apple, whatever the company is. That's the in the name of. And then it's going to say whatever it's going to say. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So this is recite with the name, or with the permission of the master, the one that created. Master, good. I like when people repeat, yes, master. Because the best, I think Ustad Na'man talks about this a lot. He says the best translation for Rabb is master, right? So if there's a master, what does it mean that I am? I'm a slave. It's an automatic relationship, right? Master is this master, creator. I am slave. So the first thing Allah identifies himself with is master and creator. Alladhi khalaq. What comes to your mind when you think of that? What's the first thing that comes to your mind about master and creator? It's the first thing I ask. Somebody goes like, yo, I created this. What's the first thing you ask? I would ask, what the heck what did you create? Right? It's like, yo, in the name of Ram, what's going on? I'm the creator. And you'd be like, what'd you create? What did you do? Like, who are you? Why are you here? Why do I care? الذي خلق الإنسان من علق. I'm the one that created humanity. I created you. And I created all of you from this really slimy, slithery, small piece of leech-like substance in the womb of your mom. Like y'all were all nothing, and y'all are all big shots now, and y'all all gonna die and be nothing. I think we like rap, and like we get really persuaded by a lot of really nice rhymes and rap music or hip hop, whatever. But really, the Quran is the same way. The rhetoric is, the concept is to get a concept across to you in a very, it's supposed to be you're supposed to react to it, right? Just like music. I think we, especially as young Americans, I think we understand we appreciate really nice rhymes and the emotion it does to us. And that's true about rap. The Quran is the same sensation to the Arabs. We just don't understand the nuance like that, I guess, unless some dude from Brooklyn says it like it's like rap, I guess. الذي خلق الإنسان من. I created all of human beings from alaq. اقرأ وربك الأكرم. Recite, read this, and your Lord is the one that honors. If you're asking me, like everything that everybody looks for in life, I think honor is the greatest thing. If you ask me, honor, like if you're 40 years old and you're going through a midlife crisis and you're questioning everything in life, you know what the number one thing you want in life is just to be honored. Like I want honor from my children, I want honor from the people that are around me, I want to die with honor. And that's why we bury people and we say they were brave and they were honorable. That's one of the best compliments. Allah just says, look, I'm the one that controls honor. Very, very interesting. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ اقْرَأْ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. I'm not here to give you the tafsir. We're just going through it, kind of understanding that first discussion between Allah and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ اقْرَأْ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. I'm the one that taught humanity with a pen. I taught humanity what they did not know. Again, Allah Azza wa Jal referencing, the Creator is referencing here all knowledge, all information in humanity, in human world that ever comes to us, it came from Allah. Okay, make sense? So if it all came from Allah Azza wa Jal, then anything that brings us happiness, fulfillment, honor, etc., anything that brings us dignity, joy in life, where would it have to have come from? Yes, of course. So if I want to be successful in business, where should that come from? Allah. If I want to be fulfilled in life, where does that come from? Allah. If I want to study nuclear science, where does that come from? Allah. So all knowledge comes from Allah. Actually, scholars, they mention two things very quickly here because it's important for our discussion. The first Iqra refers to, maybe you guys want to note this down if you've never heard of this. It's a beautiful concept. The first Iqra, so Iqra bismi rabbika, the first Iqra is the Iqra of the master or the creator. So all knowledge that comes about the creator and the divine metaphysical world is the first knowledge that we should seek. Right? So, where am I going in life? What happens after I die? Where is God? How is God? Why is God? What is God? What is the hereafter? What is all of these metaphysical concepts? That's the first Iqra. The first Iqra is get to know or learn or understand the metaphysical world. And Allah will teach you. Allah is saying this. The second Iqra is Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. Scholars mention that this is the Iqra of knowing everything in the physical world. Within the physical world, chemistry, science, math, economics, business, engineering, doesn't matter. Anything within the physical world, Allah tells us also to learn it. Like you seek that knowledge as well. Interesting that the Prophet ﷺ, where did I tell you guys, what was the first thing that he did? What did he do first before he got revelation? He secluded and he cut off almost all things in his life, right? He learned how to cut them out. To what we call sometimes in habit science, how you build new habits, is you crowd out bad habits. You get rid of them. And then what happens is that you have to reintroduce what? New habits. The most powerful habits to remove from your life and to reintroduce are the habits of beliefs and thoughts. They change everything in life. Everything in life is beliefs and thoughts. Your beliefs shape your thoughts. If you, for just a little bit, change your beliefs and thoughts, you can drastically have transformation in your life. Just small beliefs and thoughts. What is all of Islam? What is the entire Quran? It's just beliefs and thoughts. Reintroducing beliefs and thoughts in a different way, right? To, again, that new, so you remove what's bad and you reintroduce what's good. And again, I can talk to you a lot about the science of beliefs and thoughts and the power of positive beliefs and positive thoughts. One thing that I refer to here, I've heard it a lot discussed, but it's called the thought diet. Can you, it's a challenge, it's a part of this discussion. Can you for 1 week, days, months, weeks of the Prophet, I'm not sure we could do that, but can you for 1 week not have a negative thought? Okay, hold on. It's a challenge that was set. A lot of people talk about it in personal development sciences. They say, can you challenge yourself for 1 week, 1 day? If, diets are fabby, but can you, for 1 week, challenge yourself not to have a negative thought? And if you had the negative thought, can you get rid of it like that? Can we take that challenge? Would we be willing to do that challenge? Now, is it easier to do that challenge in seclusion or in our normal day-to-day life? I would think it would be in seclusion. And you know what? I believe that the Prophet ﷺ gained the habit of positive thoughts when he was secluded, so that when the Quran came, by the way, he never goes back there again. I'll talk about that in a second. But khalas, the new habit of thinking and beliefs was introduced. So do you ever need to go back to the bad ways? Never. Khalas, it's eradicated from your psyche. You don't even understand how it works anymore. Just like if you guys have ever, and I'm just trying to give you some physical substance. If you guys have ever seen somebody that has been through a major transformation within their body, right? Somebody, for example, lost a lot of weight or they transformed their body. You realize that where they are after a year, like they never go back to where they were, right? They're at a different standard or a different level. You have to do that with your mind and your soul and your heart and your body, right? If you think of it that way. But it all begins with the mind. And that's why Allah begins with Iqra, read. Because the reset began with the beliefs and thoughts. It reset the entire trajectory of how the Prophet would live his life, right? So months and weeks and years, days and months and weeks, removing bad, negative thoughts, evil thoughts, thinking positively, being creative, thinking outside the box, not living within the matrix, stepping outside, looking down at people, understanding like this web of zombies, just like in New York, if you guys, people, they go into the train, outside of the train, they're on their phones, it's like, oh my God, it's just like, guys, snap out of it. And all of a sudden, boom, it's like I reset. It begins with my thoughts. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I believe, you reset those thoughts, those beliefs, then you introduce something that's pure, organic, rich, clean, divine. Then it's just like, wow, that's a transformational experience, right? And if you study rehab and different sciences on addicts and stuff, that's exactly what they do with them. Remove them from their society, remove them from their habits, introduce new routines, make them change everything, and you reintroduce new thoughts to them. And self-confidence, self-esteem, new things come, and boom, they leave changed. Right? Transformational experiences. Same concept. It's exactly what happened here. The Prophet ﷺ, this experience happens, and the first thing he does, just so we can wrap up, the first thing he does is he goes running down the mountain full speed. It's 2 miles, right? So he's running down the mountain for 2 miles. That's pretty far, coming downhill too. Runs down the mountain for 2 miles, runs back to Mecca, runs right to his house, opens the door, runs right to his wife's lap, and he covers himself. That's pretty cool too, right? I don't think we understand the humanity of this scene. But the first person that the Prophet goes running to was what I talked to you guys 2 weeks ago about. He goes running to his best friend, like the most important person in his life, the person he loves and trusts the most. And a man that's so strong and blah, 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 and he goes running like a scared dude running and goes and starts shivering in his wife's lap. Like it's not the peak picture that we would imagine of just like this great person, this great man, this great leader. But that's the humanity of the Prophet. That's the humility. That's a lot of it is like, this is how humans are. Even the greatest of us at those times are really, really weak. Number one. Number two, it's just like the Prophet is just like, he's just real. Like I would run to my, I don't know if I would run to my wife and break down, but I don't know if I would just crawl up into like a cat into her lap and just like cover me. I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. But that was the Prophet. That's what he did, right? It's an amazing moment of understanding his humanity. And then of course, the Prophet ﷺ he's consoled. I'm going to end this part today. He's consoled by his wife. His wife, again, if you were a wife or you were a husband, and your wife came crying to you, or your husband came crying to you, or your brother or your mother or your sister, and they broke down and they just started crying in your lap. Like, it's really, how many times has anybody ever happened to them? Like, their brother, their sister, their mom, their husband just came into them, walked into the room, put their head in their lap, and they started to cry and said, please cover my face, cover me. SubhanAllah, I love the Prophet just for that moment. Like, I understand him at a much deeper level. Like, he's just so real, right? It's not like just some fake macho, fake arrogant, fake human being. Like, he was just real. And he's traumatized. And his wife doesn't even know what is going on. He didn't even say what happened, right? But Khadija, she's also extremely wise. Just like sometimes we're not very loving and kind with our siblings or our families, including myself. Like, she just sat there and she just, wiped his head. And she said, don't worry. Allah would never do anything to harm you. You always feed the poor. And you're always helping the needy. And you're always taking care of the orphan. And you're always really good to your family. Why would he ever hurt you? And in that moment, it's like this really, really profound, message to all of us about, who we are outside of ourselves. Who are we to other people? Who are we to the world and society? For the Prophet ﷺ at that very moment, he was already the greatest. He had achieved so much honor in his life without ever getting one message from God. He didn't need the message to be an honorable person, because he always was so selfless and sacrificing for other people. It's just who he was. He was a person that always helped the poor. He always helped the needy. He was always good to his family. He was always taking care of the orphan and the oppressed. It was always there. And Khadija saying it, at the time of trauma, it's really important to reassert that, it's going to be okay. Everything's all right. Right? Very, very calm. She didn't be like, what's wrong with you? You're a man. Get up. Stop acting like it. It wasn't like any of those, I would assume those natural inclinations. And she was extremely brilliant with it. And again, it showed us a lot about who the Prophet ﷺ was and how deep he was in his impact on society and life. Eventually, it would become so much more profound, of course. But at that moment, we understand a lot into his life. So that's the story of the beginning of Revelation and how it started. And I think it's a very, very important story for us to analyze and address. So any comments or questions before I move on to our takeaway points? I apologize if that took a while, but any questions? Thoughts? Okay. What do you think the Prophet ﷺ was feeling throughout the whole time? What would you feel in the same circumstance? What feelings would be going through you? Let's analyze the different moments. The first feeling in the mountain.
Fear.
Fear. Good. Extreme fear. Good. Yes? Why is this happening to me? Very good. If you got into a really bad car accident and you all of a sudden, in one moment you're driving, and one moment you're upside down and you're bleeding from your head. It's just giving you like a traumatic, wait, what just happened? Why am I here? Why is this going on? Right? Sometimes, subhanAllah, that's how life is sometimes. One moment everything is fine, and one moment everything is upside down. It can happen at any moment to me or you. Driving home from work or school, or going to a church on Sunday, or everything in life can just turn upside down. Right? It's just that quick, subhanAllah. We learned that. And of course the Prophet ﷺ, literally his entire life at that moment, he was he was rich, he had nice kids, he was a good dude, everybody liked him, and he was trying to think outside the box a little bit, and all of a sudden, his life would eventually turn completely different than he ever thought it coming. Right? Allah had a greater, grander plan for him. And at that moment, it's the shock. and it turned everything around. So understand that. I think we should understand that as well, right? We just talk about things so blah, blah, blah. But we should understand that. Like life never changed was never the same after that moment, right? So that's important. What else? What else? Yes? So he was obviously had a lot of anxiety. What proved that?
That he ran to his wife.
Ran to his wife, and he's shivering and shaking. So there's fear there, but it's just like, it's one thing to be afraid and you saw a wolf or a bear or a goat, what you perceive to be a ghost. But it was a real moment, right? This figure hugged him. Actually, scholars mention that Jibreel hugged him so the Prophet didn't think it was some imagination, because it's not like a dream. Like, this is real, right? So it's very important that physical contact happened, so the Prophet understand, hey, this is not, I didn't just see it's not some sci-fi movie or some, I don't know what they put on sci-fi these days. You guys watch the channels? I don't really watch TV anymore. You millennials, you guys aren't even millennials, a lot of you are Gen Y, but if you're a millennial, you're like, I don't even watch TV, I just scroll my Facebook, and if people didn't retweet it 1,000 times, I don't watch it, right? So, those incidences where people have paranormal activity, that's just what the heck was that? I don't know, I'm just gonna run. But the fact that it touched him, grasped him, held him, it made the experience real. So it's very important. Definitely anxiety. What else is there? What did Khadija automatically understand? Was he scared? Was he scared for his life? If she was scared, she was like, babe, it's all right. It's okay. There's nothing going on. You're at home now. Everything's safe. That's what she would have said, right? But she didn't say that. What did she reassure him on?
She said that Allah isn't going to hurt you.
Very, very good. She reassured him with Allah. So she automatically, we don't know if the Prophet said anything. But she automatically, do you think Khadija knew that he would be a prophet? I don't know. But she understood something really weird just happened. I've never seen Muhammad like this. But you know what? Allah is going to protect us. She connected him to the source actually that he just understood that he got connected to. Right? Without maybe even her knowing. But she connected him back to Allah Allah he'd never do anything bad to you. You're extremely close to him because you do X, Y, and Z. Interesting that she said you're close to Allah because you do what? You pray, you fast, you sit in the cave by yourself all alone meditating? No. What does she say he does? He helps people. All of them are helping people. But because you are so helpful to people, Allah would never harm you. So what did we learn? That if you really, actually you live life for others. You don't live life for yourself. You really want to serve God, أَنْفَعَكُمْ the most beloved of you to Allah, أَنْفَعَكُمْ لِلنَّاسِ the best of you, and the most useful and the most beneficial of you to other people. That's the most, life is not about making a lot of money and buying a lot of things for myself. Right? It's about giving as much and caring as much as I can. She understood that. So she linked, hey, God will take care of you because you're so good to people. And she understood that would calm him down. Right? It's very, very, very cool. Excellent. What else? Anything else? Okay. Topic of seclusion. That's the internet. The topic of seclusion. I think it's the iPad. Okay, I won't go near it. So I had research done on the importance of seclusion, and really the most important thing that I want to deliver. I mean, there's some points, but the take-home parts of it is that when you seclude yourself, and first it talks about the importance of seclusion, the importance of spending time outside of your day-to-day habits. Literally taking yourself out of what you do day to day and forcing yourself out of it completely. No phone, no calls. No, I'm not going to school today. I'm not going to work today. I'm not staying home today. I'm going somewhere where I can completely just focus and reflect. I could think about my life, my future. Where am I? Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? And it's really, really, really important. You know, people take retreats, vacations, and subhanAllah, they refer to so many great minds that used to make it a habit for them to seclude themselves, for them to take time to really introspect and look within themselves and their lives and figure out where they are. So really important for you to do this, right, as a part of our day-to-day habits. So again, you live life every day, right? If it's cold, you turn on the AC, make sure it's not hot. If it's hot, you make sure it's cold. If you go to your car, you go back to your house. You go from box to box to box. We live in a box. You go from one box to the next box to the next box. You know, life is just a series of boxes with a couple of cylinder drinks that we drink to change our state every now and then. And sometimes you just be like, hey, I'm going to step out the box for a minute. I'm not going to go to that classroom or the masjid or my car, my room. You sleep on a box, you sleep in a box. You know, you walk out of a box into a box, you drive a box to another box, you sit in a box, you listen to some dude speaking in a box, or some dude, you walk out of the box, you go back to the box. You know, life's just a bunch of boxes. Sometimes, you gotta put the box on the side and go sit in a circle corner somewhere, right? Or in nature, or, do something different and really introspect. Some people go on vacations, retreats. Some people go on hikes. Some people, you just have to learn to do this. You have to take some time for you to reset your thought. Like, if everything today I believed is wrong, and I took it out of my brain and I put it down, what would I put back into my brain that's right? If you ever did that, it's like it's a new experience, right? Very, very important. So learning how to do that. It increases creativity tremendously. So your ways of thinking about problems, situations, relationships, things that you're doing in your life, problems at work, in business, at school, like you think about things, gives you the opportunity. Number 3, you should do this. So some people do this like as a physical thing. But you should also do this habitually throughout the day. Of course, it's amazing that Allah eventually gives us salah. And salah is really supposed to be people from the US travel thousands of miles to sit in the hills of the Himalayas with, Buddhist monks and meditate. And really, our deen tells us, hey, meditate and cut off from the world and sit in a mountain in salah 5 times a day, right? It's really what salah is supposed to do. And the Prophet, as I mentioned to you guys, he would go back the next time. So the revelation would get cut. I'll speak about this next session. He goes back. But after he goes back that second time, as he's coming down, the second revelation comes down, the Prophet never goes back to Cave Hira again. Meaning you are not supposed to, because people live in isolation. That's actually not what the deen tells us, right? You learn to seclude yourself, but not to cut yourself off. There's a big difference between them. Right? Cutting yourself off from society is a very negative thing. The deen, because again, what did the deen come for? The deen came to help people. I can't help people if I'm never around people. Right? So people think, for example, I want to be more committed, more religious. I just want to study. I'm just going to travel overseas and sit in a masjid where there's, that smoky thing, and I'm going to learn Islam and become a good Muslim. Like, that's not how the deen works, right? That's a dream. That's a myth. The deen is real life, day-to-day relationships, habits. The Prophet never, ever, ever left his people. Never. He was always around the people. But he learned to seclude himself in salah. He learned to spend time. You will read, we go through the seerah. There are so many times when the companions, they find the Prophet walking and sitting by a well by himself, by a lake by himself, in the graveyard by himself, standing up at night praying by himself. So he got used to seclusion, but not being cut off. There's a big difference between them. It's not one extreme, but you learn to take yourself out of the noise and the baggage all the time, right? Turn your phone off, turn the TV off. Sit down with your family, sit down with the people you love, sit down with your coworkers, sit down with your people at school. Like really learn to interact, right? That's a very, very important part. I think there's some other things, inshallah, and I have a bunch of quotes and different things, like Einstein and Aristotle talk a lot about seclusion, these concepts. It's really, really interesting stuff, but it's maybe time for another day. Any thoughts? Questions? How can you seclude yourself day to day? How can you create seclusion? Tips, practical tips. Yes?
Give yourself an hour, like take a break off everything for an hour.
Excellent, wonderful. That's a very, very good. It doesn't have to be an hour. I think it can be 30 minutes. 30 minutes a day, you don't have your phone, no electrical device. By the way, salah, how long is salah a day on average? If each salah is 5 minutes, how on average, what is that? It's 25 minutes. 25 minutes out of 24 hours. Can you cut yourself off from the 24-hour grind for 25 minutes? Or 24 minutes, even if you want to make it that specific? Allah says, hey, 24 minutes, cut yourself off from the 24 hours. Right? That's all it is. So learning to do that in salah, and then of course, even outside of salah, it's okay to take time, like step back. Hey, it's okay to people, because sometimes people say, I want to take a day off, but they don't really take a day off. Like they just do a lot of things during that day, but it's not like work stuff. So maybe just I'm going to take a day off. And not just sit around and eat potato chips and ice cream and watch Netflix. I'm just gonna take a day off. Cut it out. That's really important, right? Maybe you take some friends and you go hiking or walking the dog, or do something. Yeah, not your party every day. Do something different. I think it's really important. Number 2, day to day, you should do that as well. Your self-reflection time. Sometimes I like to drive without anything on. I know people, in the morning, it's 6:30 in the morning, they walk into the car and they got to be blasting Kanye, right? They got to be blasting something. It's 6:30 in the morning. Why is the first thing, you turn on your car and the music's blasting? Just take a minute just to think, right? Maybe the morning drive is just your self-reflection. Maybe the afternoon drive, right? Learn to cut yourself off. Don't have the phone around for a while. Some limitations. Have a diet. Take a break from your phone, or communication. I think those are all very important. Taking time to take long showers, as we mentioned. Time where you can really calm down and relax. The mind is the most creative when it's the most relaxed. As a matter of fact, there's a concept in psychology called flow. It's the peak of creativity. When you are doing something so well, you're so passionate in doing it, and you're doing it effortlessly, and it goes on and you don't even think about it, like me speaking sometimes. So, what happens when you reach a state of flow, you're at your most creative peak. How do you get there? It's actually by doing what you love the most. For some people, it's the artist, and they'll literally paint, and just time will go by without them noticing. Not like watching football for 5 hours. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about doing something that you love. Some people can read, and they just read for an hour and a half and be like, oh, an hour and a half just went by, right? So everybody has something. You figure out what that thing is, it also brings a lot of creativity. A lot of, deeper, what we call higher level thinking. Higher level thinking comes when you're able to cut out a lot of noise that you're reacting to, and you can get to higher level thought as well. That's very, very, very important. Okay? Jazakallah khair. Any questions? Thoughts? I know you guys come in. I don't like that you guys come in, I give you guys stuff, and then you guys leave. So eventually I would like to get more feedback. Maybe we could start next time with more discussion, more insight, because I really would like to hear more insight from us. So maybe next week, inshallah, I'll do more activities and stuff, because I think you guys taking this home is important, but also us engaging it at a deeper level together, inshallah, is important. Any thoughts or reflections? Any aha moments or things that you can maybe say, hey, I can do this in my life, or a practical advice that maybe we could all start implementing before we leave? Yes?
Well, maybe the time that's, I think, is a good time for you to seclude yourself and think would be, I feel like the morning time is very good.
Yes.
And maybe when you wake up for Fajr, you pray Fajr, and then you just stay awake.
Yes. Excellent. That's an excellent time. Absolutely. Very early in the morning. As a matter of fact, a lot of, I wish I could get to this point, but a lot of really high successful achievers, you'll see that they wake up really, really early, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock early. And their day starts when everybody's sleeping. And they're able to have that really quiet time. They plan for their day, they plan for their life, they plan for the week, they plan for the month, a lot of clarity. So there's a lot of wisdom in Fajr being early. At the evening as well, subhanAllah, again, Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah put the prayers there for a reason, right? Allah could put prayer anywhere. But in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, particularly, when everybody's settling in, everybody's going to their homes, it tends to be really quiet at night. That's another time of good reflection and contemplation, thinking about the day, what happened. Excellent times. By the way, those are the times where the Prophet ﷺ would say adhkar, and we'll get to those later on. But that's an important time where remembrances are done. Yes, wait.
That the best time to read is in the morning.
The best time to? Read is in the morning. Yes. Right. Allah Azza actually says that. وَقُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ إِنَّ قُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. The Fajr prayer, the Quran at the Fajr prayer, is really the most witnessed by the angels. And there's some different understandings of scholars, but that time is a very, very special time. So that's very important. Very cool. Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. Very, very good. Yes?
Like 2 months ago or something, I got in a car.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, and my first thoughts were like, I was going to the park with my dad, and I was riding my bike, and I was like, my first thoughts were like, if I didn't go to the park, what would be different?
Wow, SubhanAllah, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Yani you recovered, was everything okay? Okay, alhamdulillah, that's good to hear. But it made you think about, hey, what if I didn't go to the park? I would have never got hit, nothing would have ever happened, right? SubhanAllah. That's a Jazakallah khair for sharing. That's very, 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 very good reflection for all of us. Jazakallah khair, guys. Barakallah fiqh. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So that's Thanksgiving break. I know you guys have finals. Some of you have midterms. Ask Allah to make everything easy for you guys. I know it's kind of the school grind. Please, inshallah, take some time to reflect and to think about things at yourself, but definitely take time to study and work on everything. So we'll meet before the Thanksgiving break, which is November 22nd in 2 weeks. We'll cover the next part, inshallah, the next section. I hope and pray that it was beneficial, and I hope, inshallah, and pray that the next time we meet, we can recap this session and, inshallah, be more interactive. Bidnillah. Subhanakallah bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wa salli Allahumma wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira.